Chicago with the lead. Court. Batista with the catch. Oh! LeBron James with no regard for human life. Hand down, man down.
Yeah, I can see how disrespectful he's being right now.
No, I went to Temecula and brought you some dirt.
Yeah, that's a technical.
Mama, there goes that man.
Hello and welcome back to The Bounce. I am Kevin. With me, as always, is the great James Schmeitz.
I'm going to take that comment, Kev. I'm going to take that comment. I appreciate that. It's a good start to Thursday night.
It's absolutely true. But B, I mean, hey, I know a lot of people's brackets are kind of messed up, and ours are too. But I feel like we can hang our hat on something, and I find it hilarious that we both ended up with the same headline. That was not done on purpose.
Yeah, for all our listeners and viewers out there, that was not done. We just noticed it about 2 minutes before we went live.
It was always the owls for you audio listeners out there.
Yeah, for the owl dancing.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. With the two, for me, I have the two spacemen, you know, the one staring at Earth. It was always, it's the owls. Always was. Yeah.
Did you know that? Duh.
Exactly.
But, I mean, Kev, we got a wild Final Four this weekend, man. Wild.
Yes.
First time in NCAA history, there hasn't been a 1, 2, or a 3 seed in the Final Four. First time ever. Your highest seed, you got a 4, 2 5s, and a 9. Wild.
4, 2 5s, and a 9. That's not, I mean, even in poker, that's a terrible hand.
If I told you before this, right in November, okay, if I would have told you that in the national championship, I would guarantee you there'd be a team with the mascot, the Owls, and another team with the Aztecs. Would you have been able to name them?
Well, okay, so
they'll play in the title game.
So the Aztecs.
That one, I think, is the
that one. That one, yes, just because they have, over the years, they've kind of asserted themselves. They've had a couple of NFL pro prospects. They've been a pretty solid college basketball program.
The COVID year, they would have been a 1 seed. I think they were 31-2 or something like that.
Right. Thank you. I was about to say, didn't they have that one powerhouse year? Like, this isn't the year we expected them to be in the Final Four, but there was a year where they were expected. Yeah.
Them and Dayton were loaded that year. Both been 1 seeds that year. And Dayton hasn't been to the tournament since that year.
It's so painful. Yeah, especially with the what we used to, I don't know if you would still call Dayton a mid-major, but what used to be so lovingly referred to as a mid-major, like a smaller school like Dayton, to have that sort of a Cinderella run usually happens within like once every decade or decades.
You're talking about something that changes careers. Like that would have been Anthony Grant could have got any job in the world if he wanted, and that might have been their best chance they'll ever have to win a national title. And I'm talking ever. They had the best offense in the nation. They'd lost 2 games, I think. Man, National Player of the Year, Obi Toppin.
So someday will show us all what he can do in the NBA.
Someday. I'm still.
Yep. I'm gonna say exactly. I'm still holding on hope. And for those of you at home, if your bracket is still holding on hope, we want to hear about that. If you're still in the running for an office bracket or something like that, more power to you. Good for you. But the question I have for all of you viewers, whether you're on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, wherever you are, my question for you is this: who's winning it all now? The slate is clean. There are only 3 more games to pick. So who is winning it all? I want to know your answer. We will get to them at the end of the show. I want to give everyone time throughout the show today to give us this answer. You can also tag us in a tweet if you'd like and let us know what you think. We will get your answer at the end of the show. But James, I don't want to wait when it comes to getting our answers out there. So looking at this Final Four that starts on Saturday, how are you feeling? Who do you have? I guess we'll start with the Final Four and we'll see if we agree, and then we can preview the championship.
6:09 Saturday is Florida Atlantic. It's the Owls versus the Aztecs. San Diego State's favored by 3. And then
Breaks my heart.
849 is UConn Miami. UConn is favored by 5.5. Interesting. Kev, I am gonna go with the Owls. It was always the Owls. Taking the Owls. Upset City, baby.
Oh my God, I'm gonna break some hearts here because I have a dear friend and an old friend from school who I will not name drop because I didn't go over this with him beforehand. So he knows who he is. We'll call him Justin Herbert is what we'll call him for this for the sake of this setting. He's a huge San Diego fan with everything, and I have been one of the few people that he's been able to talk to. That's like everyone's doubting my boys, and I'm like, not me, dude. Like I'm out here telling people that Charleston ain't gonna do it. I'm telling you, but it's time. I think at this point I have to go against. I have to pick these are two of my favorite teams that were in this tournament. We spent a lot of time talking about these two teams in our preview and our warm up. And while I didn't have the courage to pick FAU to be here, I think my biggest take from the tournament seeding was that FAU got robbed at being a 9 seed, and they've proved that in my opinion. And I think they're going to go one step further and prove it again. So give me FAU. I wish this was the national championship. At this point, now that we're here,
so cool.
That's what to me, this is the national championship. But that's not fair to UConn and Miami, James. So maybe we'll differ here. I'll lead with you. Who do you have taking it down between the Huskies and Hurricanes?
I thought this was going to be UConn, Texas, when Texas was up 13 late. And then they forgot they had to finish the game. Texas was rolling. And they just... They got ugly fat. They got out of hand. That was wild. Give me UConn, man. I think UConn's the best team in the tournament right now. I think they're the best team in the Final Four.
Okay.
Big,
well, this
athletic. They can do it all.
This is going to be fun then because we will be able to preview the same national championship game because I'm also going UConn. As much as I would love the fan in me, the guy who's always looking for a narrative or something that's fun to talk about, would love a Miami FAU or a Miami San Diego State.
Florida one. That'd be wild.
Yeah, the Florida championship. That'd be great. But I think UConn is going to win, and it's not because we're talking about, for lack of a better term, a basketball blue blood program versus a team that historically isn't that with Miami, although they in recent years they've put together some good teams. Miami is they're no slouch. It's not a fluke that they're here. But give me UConn. I think for not only just the fact between the lines, I think they're probably the better team, but also just the astronomical odds. I know it's a coin flip at this point because the two teams are playing against each other, but I just think the universe is going to stay the course and have at least one known entity in the NCAA championship this year. So I
think UConn's margin of victory in the tournament's like 15.5. They've been rolling teams. Absolutely rolling teams.
Absolutely.
Do I think me and you are about to pick the same championship winner?
I certainly hope so. We're going to throw
Michael, appreciate
Michael.
The old Packer, East Head.
Yes, we appreciate you, sir. If you have a prediction, we'd love to hear it. We're picking the Final Four right now. So if you do have an idea, right now we're going UConn and FAU in the championship game. So, James, who do you have taking it down?
Oh, it's like it's the heaven it's the heart and mind argument. My mind says take UConn. They're gonna roll them. I ain't doing it, man. The Cinderella does it. They go 37-3. They win the title. It's always the Owls.
Let's go. Let us go. And I'm going to remove this just so everyone can see it. It was always the Owls. Yes. I'm in the same boat. Head says exactly what you just said. UConn is beating teams pretty handily.
They're killing them, man.
They're probably the best.
Huge. They're huge.
Team left. Yeah, they're huge. But you know what? FAU, they're well above 31 wins at this point. Still only at 3 losses. Give me Cinderella. And I agreed with Colin Cowherd years ago when he had that take about George Mason making it and nobody watching. This is a different world now. The
Yeah, social
pandemic
media,
changed us and social media has changed us. We watch even when we don't watch these things, like we're constantly tuned in.
mm-hmm.
And I think that FAU versus UConn will still draw. I no matter what, I think
Yeah, we're watching. Man.
this tournament has done enough, to get people to watch it. So it's going to be great.
Tournament. Kev, what's your take on this? So there's no blue bloods. The top 4 seeds, like the 1, 2, 3s aren't here. There's an argument that there's a segment of people out there that think it's not fair. The tournament's not fair. That it should be a series matchup. What are your thoughts on this?
Oh, a series matchup. Yep. First of all,
it'd be impossible because it may take 10 years.
Yeah. You took. Point one is I advise you to look at the NBA playoffs and then tell me how you're going to have a series in college basketball. Because if you do that, 68 teams has to be dwindled down to what, 16 or what? So maybe we do 60. So the first weekend, they're all best of ones, but then it's a series because then you can't mix the bag there because the whole.
You still
right. Go ahead.
Purdue gets upset.
Exactly. It's the exact same problem. Yeah. And the NBA did the way they dealt with it was they expanded their first round. Do you remember that? Mm-hmm. They used to be a 5-rounder. A lot of leagues, it's not just the NBA, it's not stuck to basketball, but you open this door of it's not fair to put it all in one game and then a 3-game series becomes a 5-game series, becomes a 7-game series, becomes load management. Yeah, now you can't have back-to-back games because these are important games for the championship, so everybody needs at least 1 to 2 nights off. And the next thing you know, college basketball, it's September madness or something. It would be great for people who aren't baseball fans. They'll have basketball to watch all summer long.
True, yeah. I'm coming to that time of year where I got nothing.
You got nothing to do. So I don't know. I'm out on a series. The one place you might get me to give you a best of 3 would be right here in the Final Four. Mm-hmm. But anything beyond that is a non-starter for me. What about you?
I'm out. No, I want pure madness. This is what I want. I want this. This is it.
Yeah, it's not called March Fair and Balanced. It's called March Madness, dude. Like embrace the chaos.
FDU's head coach said, he's like, 99 out of 100 times we lose. He's like, today was the one. And Michael agrees with you too. Like maybe possibly just a series for the championship. Like that's an interesting thought. Because then you play what do you play? Monday, Wednesday, Friday. That's interesting.
Yeah. Like I could see that, and I wouldn't hate it. And then maybe if it's just like a best of 3 or something, but yeah, if it becomes difficult because then at that point, how do you say, well, the Final Four shouldn't be a series then? And then at that point, it just it umbrellas. I don't see how it doesn't umbrella.
Yep. It's just. You're absolutely right. It goes from this beautiful, magical thing we have to.
That's already hard enough to coordinate, right?
Yeah,
it's so difficult that my voice just went up an octave.
Well, you were talking about it earlier. Florida Atlantic is criminally underseeded. Florida Atlantic came to the tournament 31-3. They will finish this season regardless with 35 wins, the most wins of any team in the nation this year. That's wild, dude.
9 seed.
9, and they beat somebody good. Who did they beat?
And people were telling me all about Memphis.
Nah, I was all about the Owls. I never.
You and I, sir. Yeah. It's more than just my favorite Rick James song.
There are 3 losses. They lost to Ole Miss, which is kind of weird. Lost second game of the season. They went to Florida and beat them. And then they had 2 conference losses after that. Nobody would play these guys, which is a common problem for.
Which is sneaky. Yeah, it's crept its way into college basketball. It started as a college football thing, and now, nobody wants to play.
Even mildly good, nobody wants to touch you.
And it's even more difficult because there's 300 something Division I teams now.
21, something like that.
And it's not. There's only 12 people on that roster. It is not that hard to put together a couple of junior college kids who maybe had something rough happen to them, but they've got all the skill in the world. The next thing you know. a mid-major is
Hit on a couple
spanking.
guys like John L. Davis is a went under the radar. He's an Indiana kid. Vladislav Golden started at Texas Tech, so their big man was at Tech for, let's see here, 1 year, and then he transferred out. He played 10 games at Tech, so it's not like he's not been there. He was obviously good enough to get recruited to Tech, and you'll see this more. Like, the big difference between college football and college basketball is there is not 22 positions on a basketball court. There's five. It's much easier to put together a team that can compete. Let me take it. It's not easier. There's a lot more talent out there per capita, per number.
Exactly. Yeah. The impact players, they garner more weight, I guess is a better way to put it. Like, you can do a lot of damage with 2 or 3 superbly talented young men or women out there. And you mentioned it's only 5 positions. I would say, depending on the rotation and depending on the conference, it might only even be 4, because now more often than not, the wing positions are blending. So like those roles are kind of the same. One will be a 3-and-D guy. One will be more of an offensive person. But you need a point guard. You need a wing, and then either a stretch four. It depends on what you have in the post. You definitely want. I love that college basketball, a skilled big man can still just turn a game on its head. I love that. I mean, it still happens in the NBA. I love. There was a time over the last decade where people thought that the big man was going away in the NBA, but no, they just adapted. They learned how to hit threes. And
Brook Lopez, just go watch his career, and that's what happened.
The Renaissance man, Brook Lopez. So we both went FAU for our national champions.
Kev. It was always the Owls.
Always the Owls. And I agree with you there. We've got to switch it up now. Now it's time for the NBA section
to our regularly scheduled content
program.
Folks.
Yes.
Which, let's take a gander here, Kev. Before we get anywhere, let's see if there is a major basketball game going on right now that turned into an, oh my God, it's gotten worse. The Celtics are playing at the Bucks tonight, Kev. I told you what the score earlier is. What is the score now? I already tipped you off. The Celtics are winning.
Goodness. Yes. You guys ready for this? Any guesses in chat before I spoil it for everyone? Celtics and the Bucks, the 2 best teams in the East, are squaring off in a potential Eastern Conference Finals preview. So I would love to know what you think the score is before I ruin it.
It's ugly, man.
It ain't good. We ready for this? The Bucks or the Celtics are up by 40? I'm just going to spoiler alert. Here we go.
40,
boom shakalaka.
6. What is going on? They all played too. We looked at it.
Wow. Yeah. We were double checking. You're like, is Middleton out again? Somebody's got to be out.
40. Jaylen Brown 30. Horford 14. Smart 10. Devin White 8. Brogdon 14 off the bench.
My
Giannis
goodness.
24 on 27 shots.
Look at that Holiday, second quarter. And also the third quarter if you want. But my goodness. Wow. Oh, wait. Michael has some context to add here. 13% from 3.
That was when I was looking at stats earlier. I saw it. It was
back-to-backs kill us. Now, normally I would have a little more
wild
empathy in this situation, Michael, but your top 5 in the league point guard happened to drop a 50 burger on the Pacers last night, so I'm not upset for you.
Yeah, he's right. So they've taken 10 more shots than the Bucks have taken 10 more shots than the Celtics, okay? They are shooting 22% less. They've taken 10 more shots and the Celtics have made 14 more shots. They're 33-92, just 36% from the field. The Celtics are 57%. It's their defense. They're getting killed. The Bucks are 10 of 38 from 3, 26%. The Celtics, meanwhile, are 20 of 37, a scorching hot 54%. God. Celtics have shot twice as many free throws.
Bucks
Bucks have turned it over 12 times.
Well, that doesn't help. Those free throws, I wonder if they'll have a gripe there. We haven't had a chance to watch the game. Not that I would willingly sign myself up for that at this point. It's a 46-point.
Tatum he's 8 of 10 from 3. Whoa.
Yikes. Wow. Well, that's, honestly, so you've been a coach, James. Let's talk about this because this is it's one of those nights, right? Like this game is over.
It's over.
Yeah, I imagine Theonis, sorry, I can't. Giannis's brothers, Thanasis is probably out there at this point.
He'll bring him back.
And
oh yeah,
here we go. Michael, we're going to touch on this later because I also may have tweeted out that I'm trading in my Pacers pinstripes to light the beam for the rest of the season. So I'm with you there because although we have to take ownership that, like most of NBA media, we didn't give the Kings enough attention early on. We were there before most, and we're tired of the slander. I am tired of the King.
Notice the purple. I'm gonna figure this out someday.
There it is. We've got this as a subject for later on in the show about teams allegedly aiming for the King. So we will definitely come back to that. But back to this specific loss here for the Bucks. I'm with Michael. I don't care about this one in a sense because a loss is a loss. I don't care about the deficit, and that's where I come back to you, James, our former coach. 40-point loss. How are you feeling about this one? Are you just kind of like, yeah, I'm glad this is the night Tatum's 80% from 3 because it's just not our night.
I'd rather it now than in a month. Yeah, you're pissed, you're mad, you bring it up, but it's just one. You just move on. Like they're 2 games. Like here's the thing: you can't let it linger because they're 2 games up. So when this game goes final, they will have a 2-game lead for best record in the NBA. So they have a 2-game lead on Boston. They will have home court advantage throughout the playoffs if they just finish the season and win it. They got to they turn around and play Philly Sunday. Don't have a terribly hard schedule to finish this off, too. Philly Sunday, Washington, Chicago, Memphis, and then at Toronto. So it's not terribly hard down the stretch.
Philly on Sunday, depending on the time, you might find us talking about that one while we watch it on playback TV, which is a good time
Sunday,
for me to mention.
That might be a good one.
Ooh, 8 o'clock Sunday. I think I can make that work, guys. So check it out. Make sure you best way would be to just follow us on Twitter, and we'll post when we go live. But you can go right now to playback.tv/bitesize sports and become a member of our room and be notified whenever we go live because we do love to talk hoops, and it's just so much fun to break down the game as it's happening. And then in the commercial breaks, we're able to expand upon it and really get kind of in podcast mode at that point. But sorry, forgive my pitch. Back to your analysis, James. You're okay with where the Bucks are right now, is what you're saying.
Just move on. Yeah, you got to turn around and get ready. Because
we're on to Cincinnati.
Yeah, we're on. You move on to Philly. It is what it is. Yeah, Philly's probably too far back, but you screw up and lose to Philly, then all of a sudden you got 3 teams real close. So, you just move on. And that's the thing where it brings up, it must be a back-to-back thing because Jrue had 51 last night. Jrue had a monster game last night. He had 51. Giannis had a 38-point triple-double. They scored 159 points in a win over the Pacers last night.
Yeah, which normally would hurt my feelings, but it's actually exactly what I want right now. Nothing makes me happier than seeing the
loser city
Pacers in the 12 spot in the East right now. But yeah, you talk about it, and I will just, you know what, I'm just going to show it to the folks here. We look at, Jrue Holiday. I imagine he's pretty gassed after that kind of an output last night because he's not even attempting a lot of shots, At this point, honestly, I'd be emptying my bench, except with the exception of Goran Dragic. Keep Dragic on ice tonight.
Yeah, let them get to. Yeah, they've pulled him too. It got out of hand. It is what it is. You move on.
Still think this is one of the deepest teams in this is the deepest team in the NBA right now while Paul George is hurt. At one point I was up there with the Clippers being there, but right now still the deepest team in the NBA. I look forward to this matchup in the playoffs, and I'm going to say this, James, I don't know it for a fact. This is just some speculation, but this could be a very big motivating factor for Milwaukee should
Mhm.
these teams match up in the playoffs. Like, oh, remember last time we played, these guys beat us by 40. So they would not that either of these teams need extra
Yeah.
motivation come playoff time,
But
but
it's
it
nice
never
now.
hurts.
This is the last time they play. I was looking at that too. It's the last time they play. And Michael's right. Like,
Yes.
he played 32 minutes last night, 30 shots, 51 points. Like
30 shots, damn. Yeah, so we talk about load management. This would be when it would be correctly applied.
yeah.
Yeah, you played not only did you play a lot of minutes last night, that's an incredibly high usage rate. That's the ball in your hands a lot. That's a lot of shots going up. That's more than just being like me on the JV squad and basically just going out there and running sprints, sideline to sideline. If you're doing a lot more when the offense is running through you and you're creating that much of it, and let's not forget that Jrue's no slouch on the defensive end. So he's playing
one of the best defenders in the league.
He's playing both sides of the ball consistently. So, yeah, I'm in agreement with that. And this is one of those, again, it's a bad timing of a back-to-back. But you won the one you had to win. You can't afford to lose to the Pacers right now at this point in the season. So it is what it is.
Yeah, it sucks. But Brook Lopez did play too. I was like, yeah, everybody did play. Giannis had a 38-point double last night in that game too. Like he had a casual 38 points on 18 shots.
Yeah, just a little
talk about that now after this, but I mean they did a
forgettable 38. You gotta love that. That's a good night for everybody when your 38 is just kind of pedestrian for yourself, and then your boys out here getting 51. But the Bucks, we talked about their playoff
38, 17, and 12 last night. Okay, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, we talked about their playoff situation, and we do have an update. It's that time of year now where I think every episode we'll be able to say, hey, guess what? Some new folks have locked in at least the fact that they'll be in the playoffs. So we have some new members to this party, the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Sacramento Kings. So before we dive into the Kings, because I have them, we got a special spot laid out just for them. Let's talk Cleveland Cavaliers, James. They are locked in now into the playoffs. They currently have a 4-game lead over the Knicks for the 4th spot. However, they are 2.5 games behind Philadelphia. Before I give my opinion, where do you think Cleveland ends up? Are they going to be right here at 4?
Mm-hmm. I think that's set. I think 4 or 5 is set. I think Cleveland's going to get 4. And then I think Knicks are going to get the 5 because the Knicks are also 2.5 games in front of Brooklyn right there. I think the 4-5 matchup is set. I think it's Cavs-Knicks. What do you think?
I am completely in agreement there. It's not outside of the realm of possibility for Cleveland to usurp Philly, but I just don't see it happening. Philly's playing pretty well, and I definitely don't see the Knicks making up those 4 games in the time that we have left. So, I think Cleveland's going to have themselves home court advantage. So, since we both agree on that, let's have just a little more fun. I think we might also be in agreement that neither Brooklyn nor Miami is going to take the 5 spot away from New York.
I think the Knicks have got that. They are there.
Yeah, Knicks Cleveland is kind of feeling like a done deal to us. So, if you had to pick right now, who wins that series?
Man, you would do that.
Mm-hmm.
Damn you.
Yep. That's why I'm here.
I'm gonna take the Spider, even though New York has played really good since they traded for Josh Hart. Man, they've been good since they traded for him. They're only 5-5 in their last 10, but this is a good New York team. Very good. But I like Cleveland. I think you're talking like a 7-game series. That's gonna be a beast.
I like it a lot. And listen, I have every opportunity and every reason to take the low road here and maybe call certain players wannabes or, talk about how they aren't playoff caliber players. But I am not going to do that because I have the utmost respect for these athletes that get out there and go out and make the plays that they make. And I do, despite my Pacer heart, I do have some respect and just acknowledge that this is a good basketball team. So with that being said, give me the Cleveland Cavaliers in either 6 or 7. This is a very close series, like you said, but give me the Cavs against a very good Knicks team. So that moves us to the West, where we have the newest member of the I'm in the playoffs party, and that is the
Light the beam!
Sacramento Light Beaming Kings. Yes, sir. Kings are currently third. Where do you see them locking it in at the end
Let's
of the
talk some stats here, Kev.
year? Ooh,
So-
okay.
The Kings, my friend, have not made the playoffs since 2006. I remember those teams.
Mm-hmm.
I assume you do too.
Yes, I do.
Those teams went up against the Lakers in some massive battles, and I don't know if they got screwed or not. I'm just saying it was something else back then.
Mm-hmm.
You're talking Peja Stojakovic, Hito Turkoglu. Is it
Mike Bibby, Chris
Mike
Webber.
Bibby,
I can
Chris
help you
Webber.
out here a
Is
little
it
bit.
Bobby
Bobby
Miles?
Jackson.
Bobby
Off the bench.
Bobby
Yep.
Miles and Booby Miles.
Did you say Hidu Turkoglu already and Peja? I think you said both of them.
Peja.
Yep.
So it's our first playoff.
Corliss
win.
Williamson was like their ninth guy in their rotation.
The first playoff bid since then. 16 years was the longest drought in professional sports. Here's the one this kind of a sick stat, Kev. Like like Tennessee, the Titans, they've had one bad year in the last 5, and it sucks. The Colts, they've struggled a little bit recently, right?
Mm-hmm.
In those 16 years, the Kings didn't have a single winning season. That's sickening.
You know that reminds me of what the Clippers were before Lob City.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Because it was a very similar. So the Clippers drafted Danny Manning in the 80s. Who you kids out there, look up Danny Manning. He forgive me for this player comp, but the league was different then. I would say Danny Manning was a Kevin Durant type player back when those type of players didn't really play. Exactly. And he was a gifted, he was a ball skilled guy who was 6'10", which they didn't really know how to use that in the 80s or 90s. Nobody really knew what to do with that. So unfortunately, it didn't really work out for them.
Yep.
But the Clippers were just a laughing stock for 20 plus years before they finally did the Chris Paul, Blake Griffin experiment that it got them to really, they've changed their brand. The Clippers are now, they may still be little brother to the Lakers, unfortunately, because of the city they play in, but they're not little brother to the rest of the teams around the league. The Clippers are consistently a playoff contending team.
Yep.
So the Kings kind of slid in and filled that gap over time. And yeah, I for one am very happy. I will say that they have made it up to the 3 seed. But do you have any more stats? I don't want to step on any more of your stats from this incredible drought.
They are now. Here's the main one, Kev. They've had the beam for one season, and they've made the playoffs that season for the first time in 16 years. I'm not saying it's about the beam, and I'm not saying this little purple light over here I got going up, the beam. I'm not saying that's it. And I'm not saying it's not, bud. I'm just going to leave that to you, man. Just going to leave it out there.
Hey, I'm with you. I'm telling you what, I think I'm going to save the Light the Beam video. I think that's just going to be standard part of the Bounce Studio going forward. We're just going to keep that sound bite. I don't have it for us tonight, but we'll have it going forward.
They are. The first round matchup scares the crap out of me for him. I don't like it at all.
That leads perfectly to our subject because I believe it was Windhorst. Forgive me if I'm misquoting, but I saw a clip that essentially said the Warriors was the team that he named, but the Warriors specifically. But basically, every lower seed team is gunning for the 6th seed. They used 2 reasons. One was what you just discussed, which is the 17-year drought, which personally I don't see how that has no impact on this playoff series. So I
think. Would you agree with me that you think the home atmosphere will be wilder because of it? Like
I think it makes them harder to beat. Yes.
Yeah, I don't think it affects them.
In general, I get what people are saying because high pressure situation for a young team, but this team is led by what I believe by who I believe we all agree is going to win that silly Clutch Player of the Year award. Like Darren Fox, whether or not I believe the award is silly, there is no doubt that he has established himself as a clutch time, big moment, game on the line, I'm taking the shot. So I don't see the pressure of some streak. Most of these guys playing were 5 years old the last time the King. They don't care.
They don't care.
What do they? They didn't grow up Kings fans.
Yeah.
It's not like
they've been playing for 10 years, playing on the team for 10 years.
Exactly. They're not feeling. Not to say that they're not going to feel pressure, but this is a young team that has faced a lot of adversity, and I just don't think they're going to care that much that it gives some other team an advantage because they haven't been there in a long time.
Well coached. Mike Brown has been there.
Exactly.
He's won title. Like Mike Brown.
Well coached, raucous atmosphere, and you know what? Young, inexperienced players kill at home in the playoffs. They do well. They tend to do better. For whatever reason, yes, there's pressure, but there's also that incredible amount of support that you talked about. So
they're almost just young and dumb. Like they're not going to know any better. It was kind of like it's like the Grizz were last year. They were just a young upstart, just young and dumb that kept winning.
Yeah, exactly. You think they're going to be the type to have exactly. They're too young to have that self-doubt.
Yeah.
And why would they have it? They've been doubted all year. They are 23-14 on the road, without a doubt the best team in the West, the only playoff team in the West that is any good on the road. The Nuggets are one game over 500 on the road, and the Clippers are 20-18. They're 2 games over.
I assume they have
it's the
best
Kings
road
and
record in the
everybody
league,
else.
Right? Yeah.
I will double check that right now, but I believe that is correct.
They do.
Yeah.
Milwaukee is going to move to 25-15 after their beat down tonight. So there's 3 teams with 15, and then they have 4. Yeah, they have the best road record in the league.
Yeah, it's incredible. So I personally do not see the Kings as the weak link in the West that these other teams should be gunning for. If it's me, honestly, when you're looking at you've also got Phoenix right there. You've got Memphis. I don't know. We'll see what happens with Kevin Durant, who's also on the docket for a little bit later today. I think he's did he play last night?
Yeah, he played last night. I think.
So he's back.
He wasn't very good. I think he had 16. Let me pull that up. I believe.
And that is fair. Yeah. So he's back. So we got to keep an eye on it. But assuming he's back at full strength, okay, I can understand not wanting to play Phoenix.
He made his home debut last night.
Finally.
16 points on 18 shots, 8 rebounds, 4 assists, 18 shots. He was 5-18, didn't shoot it well at all, 2 turnovers. Not a great night. They did win by 7, though. They still won. Devin Booker had 29. Chris Paul had 19 and 6. Ayton only 10. Kogi 10. Campaign 11 off the bench. So they're the team to watch. It high ceiling. Haven't had any time together.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't think it's tough to pick a weak link 1 through 4 right now. So I can see why so many people are just defaulting to the Kings.
Yeah.
But for me, I'm not. If it weren't for the play-in, which this year it's fair. Last year it was a travesty that the Minnesota Timberwolves were forced to play in a play-in with those other 3 teams. They had no bid. There were clearly 7 teams that deserved to be in the playoffs in the West last year, and then there were 3 teams that deserved to duke it out for that final spot to get blown out in the first round. But that's not the case this year. These guys are all equal. Outside of having to play play-in games, I personally might want the 7 seed is what I'm stumbling to get to. I think if there's a weak link in the Western Conference as a home seed in that first round, it's Memphis, not Sacramento.
Yeah. A lot going on there.
Yeah. So there we have it. What do you got? Yeah.
Man, I hate that. I don't want to see the Kings play the Warriors. I would like the Warriors to get the 5 seed.
Warriors Suns.
Are 1.5 games out from 4th. That's crazy. I don't want to see the Kings and Warriors in the first. The major problem with the Warriors is they can't win on the road. They're terrible.
Mm-hmm.
One of the worst records in the league. And I don't know if Andrew Wiggins is coming back this year.
Okay. So, yeah, should we talk about the rumor? I feel like we should talk about it. Maybe we don't go into complete details, but yeah, okay, fair enough.
Yeah, so Kev, the rumor, there's a
This is a
wild
rumor
out there, and I don't know if it's true or not, but Wiggins has been out for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not because he's hurt. He's got personal issues. I think he's missed over a month straight now, right? Let's look this up. I mean, he's missed an absolute ton of time. All right, let's pull this up. He's only played 37 games. Last time he played was February 13th. Man, that's a month and a half ago. Still out, personal. Man, Kev, the rumor has something to do with, I don't know if it's his wife or fiance and a bit of infidelity and then a kid's involved. And if it was me, I'm going to put myself in his shoes. I would be out for a very long time.
Yes, is fair. If
the rumor is true, it would be devastating, personally, and life-changing.
Absolutely.
And I don't think, if it's even remotely true, he's not playing again this season.
I think that's a fair assessment. And yeah, I don't know. I like the track that you've taken, so I'm going to stick with it. And I'm not going to go into any of the details of it, just in case it's not right. So it's out there. It's available for people to find. So if you can find it, more power to you. But I will also agree with that take and say that, some things are bigger than sports. And this feels like this could be one of those things.
I would be in rehab be in therapy for months if this.
It would be very difficult. Yeah, it would be very difficult to deal. Some people are able to do that where it's like, hey, actually let me focus on my work. Let me get away.
Some people just dive in like that's all they. Tom Brady gets a divorce and plays one year of football.
Exactly. Just let me just focus on this. But for others, that's not what they won't be able to function because they won't be able to take their mind off of it, and they just need to go through those stages. Yep. It's often referred to as the stages of grief. I think that it's applied to more emotions than just grief. That there's a process involved with processing one's emotions when something major happens to them. So,
and absolutely, you can apply this here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know. So
I hope it's not true, but man, whoa.
Yeah, it would be a blow. So to go back to that matchup. Take it back to the X's and O's here a bit. The Warriors versus the Kings in the first round. Being completely selfish, the beam lighting fool that I am, that's the matchup that I want. I think that
as a pure basketball standpoint, that's a banger of a first round matchup. That's great.
And I think that's a series that the Kings could win. Now, for those who want to put their tinfoil hats on, and I may or may not have this thing laced with tinfoil, you'll never know, or lined with tinfoil, you'll never know. But there would be some who would see Kings versus Warriors and just scream, oh my God, we're going to get 2001 all over again. We're playing one of the bigger brands in the NBA, and no one's going to want to see us beat this team. So I can see people being nervous about that and being like, no, please, let's draw the Clippers in the first round. No one's going to care if we beat the Clippers now that Paul George is hurt. But I think
go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I was just saying, I think the Warriors, if you take away the names, if you take away the brand, and you just look at what each team does well, I think the Kings are poised to beat the Warriors in a best-of-7 series as long as they have home court advantage, which they would.
Especially without Wiggins. I think you're going to come out of this playoffs, and the Kings are going to be a hot name in the NBA for fans. Like, casual fans are going to find out about these dudes, about Fox, Monk, Herter, Sabonis. You also get an interesting battle there with one of the best road records in the league versus one of the best home records. The Warriors are elite at home. Kings are elite or pretty good on the road. However, on the road, Golden State is just trash.
Yep.
They are just absolute trash. They now have, let's see, is it the fourth? They are the fourth worst team on the road. Behind.
Yeah.
Oh, they are
Oh,
fifth.
wow.
Sorry, behind fifth. It is fifth. Behind powerhouses. The only powerhouses ahead of them are the Hornets, the Pistons, the Spurs, and the Rockets.
Everybody else in the Wemby watch. Yeah.
Exactly. And they
And
are not.
somehow these, and that's why I think, because the Kings are one of the few teams in the league that could beat the Warriors at home, and they wouldn't need to. All they would have to do is defend home court. So
Yep.
for my money,
Yep.
the Kings are not the mark in the West. If it's me, give me Memphis in the first round. There's a lot going on there in Memphis. I do not want to be the team that has to send the raucous Sacramento Kings home. That crowd quiet. Like, I don't want to try to beat that team at home after 17 years of pent up frustration. Like, that is going to be like, the announcers will be hard to hear on television, I bet, during that Kings first round matchup.
It's going to be wild. That'd be awesome. Be a lot of fun.
Absolutely phenomenal. So there we go. Well, that takes us out of the playoffs, the locked-in playoffs at least. But we have, before we get into what will be another playoff question that came to us from our Discord, I wanted to go ahead and look at some of the other things that were sent to us through our Discord. One right here, we have the somebody throwing up some March Madness. We want to give a shout out at least to the ladies playing March Madness as well. Then Caitlin Clark is probably the name right now in women's college basketball.
The name of women's college basketball. Yep.
Had more TV viewers than any NBA game ESPN has aired all season so far, man. And that is pretty cool to me, man. So that one came from Nate, who is not a Hawkeyes fan, by the way, so he didn't necessarily have a lot of friendly things to say, but we here do. We're happy for Caitlin and her success. Now, here's a little video clip that I'm about to roll to. I don't know how well it will play, and he has a great basketball mind. His physical skills were never all that great in the first place, and now he's old, and I just don't think the 17 technicals, and granted, also, to be fair, Brandon Ingram is one of my favorite players in the league. We all know this. I love Brandon, and to see a guy potentially get hurt off a stupid play like this, I have no respect for it.
I agree. I agree 100%. Like,
over same. Yeah. Did your team need? Is that why you sucker punch Jordan Poole at practice too? Is because your team needed a spark?
Yeah, I'm over it. Over it completely.
No, and it's a shame. It's a shame because he was one of my few claims to fame. I once got to share a court with Draymond Green in college, and now it's like, don't even want to talk about that. But we have one more. And this goes back to the Kevin Durant story. Now, he is back in Phoenix, and he was asked about his legacy. Now, I am not going to read all of this to you. I will spare you all of that. But broad strokes, I will leave it up here long enough for you to read it, and I'll scroll back down here to catch that bottom line. But basically, he says, I don't care about legacy. My legacy was never legitimate, was never looked at honestly once I joined the Warriors. So did you read this, James? And if not, or whatever, do you have thoughts on it? Do you agree with his take? Is he pouting here? Is he kind of hedging his bets so he can just say, I don't care about this? So what is your takeaway from this, from Durant?
It's interesting. It's an interestingly honest take. And I don't disagree with him completely because I think as soon as he joined the Warriors, everybody just crapped all over him. Talked like he wasn't good enough, this, that, and the other. He's absolutely, and he's right. There is a narrative. He's absolutely right. So I think it's a refreshingly honest take on it. Like, also, Kev, like, how much in your daily life do you think about your legacy with everything you do, or do you just want to be the best you can be? Like, it's your job, this, like, isn't that all that matters? I don't think Katie goes around like every night, like, man, my legacy. Like, I don't think they care. I don't think they really think about that stuff.
I would tend to agree. Now, this is apples to grapefruits here because I don't have any NBA championships to celebrate. But What I have found is the only time personally that I think about legacy building moments is sort of like right after you accomplish them. So for me, there have been moments where it's like, wow, I'll look back and be like, that's pretty cool. No one will ever be able to take that away from me, sort of thing. Like, no matter what happens through all the trials and tribulations, I have that.
Yeah.
And so I have some of those thoughts, but outside, it's not part of my, I don't have a vision board that where I'm out here saying, like, what's my legacy going to be? So I agree with that. He says it at some point here. He says something along the way. They got to basically. He says, there it is. Be the best I can be. Go home, hang with my family. That's it. I just want to go out there and produce. And that's essentially what he's saying. It's because I'm discredited at every step of the way is essentially what he's saying. But I agree with the idea of like, you just why if you're so focused up on that. You're in the wrong mindset. I have paraphrasing a popular quote that I actually have on a mug somewhere, but it's essentially like greatness is a fallacy. The idea of greatness, people see it as some, people staring into the horizon, dreaming of greatness when greatness is picking up the rocks at your feet. Greatness is doing the work that's in front of you and doing it consistently and showing over time that you're great at it. So sitting here and daydreaming about legacy, it doesn't get you anything but an ego. So yeah. And I think Katie's correct to feel this way. And it's a smart approach, even if it does feel like maybe he reads his own headlines a little too much. Like if I had KD's following on Twitter, I likely wouldn't check my notifications very often because there would be no need. There are tons of people just out there looking for their shot at relevance by taking a shot at KD on Twitter, and he'll give it to him, unfortunately. So he talks about being discredited, and he may be complicit a little bit in some of the narratives that have been created about him. It's not all his fault.
He had.
Exactly. Yeah, he hasn't helped himself out all too much. But for me, his legacy's intact, and that's my last question for you, James. We've heard what the man has to say about his own legacy. It's not over yet. Where it's at right now, and I guess use your own interpretation for where you think he's going. What do you think Katie's legacy will be?
I mean, he's going to be remembered as one of the all-time best scorers ever.
Yeah.
There's always going to be, he's not wrong, a little hangover him that he went to the Warriors after losing to him. I think the bigger thing for me is he's got titles, but he hasn't got one outside of there. They came close in with the Thunder. They lost in the finals, and then the whole team got blown up. Then he goes to Brooklyn, and it's a mess. Now he's in Phoenix, got a good shot. Like, Phoenix can be really good. So I think for me, it's that he hasn't actually got one outside of Oklahoma or Golden State.
Yeah, that will always be the caveat, and that's part of what he talks about, I think, when he says that he gets discredited. But
he's an all-timer, man. He's a Hall of Famer. First ballot Hall of Famer. No questions asked to me.
100%. And I think at this point, this is where it becomes it's one of those beauty is in the eye of the beholder things, because having grown up a Pacers fan in the 90s, I don't have this false equivalency, or I view it as a false equivalency where titles equal greatness, and without those titles, you have no legacy. You weren't great. I just don't believe that. I grew up watching Patrick Ewing, Charles Barkley, Reggie Miller, John Stockton. I won't name the other asshole, but
I think I agree with what you're saying, but I also think to be one considered the truly elite, the best ever, the Michael Jordans, you have to have the titles. I think that's what separates. Like, I agree with you. Barkley, Stockton, Ewing, the Bad Boys, Pistons, Isaiah Thomas, like, them are elite players. They're Hall of Fame players. I think what separates you from Hall of Famer to all-timer is the rings. I think that's how rings. Is the rings. Like, I agree with you. It doesn't discredit you being really good or
right.
That is not a thing.
And that's fair. And I won't disagree with that very much, because I'm okay with it. I'm okay with that argument of, okay, well, if I'm separating my tier 1 from tier 2 guys, then, you have to have metrics. We all have to have our reasons for why we make these decisions. So I can understand that. And I do think, you can still have a legacy that is, can be looked at well. Like, I don't know. I will be interesting to see how the future looks at a guy like Dame Lillard, because I know how I will view him because of all the names I just previously mentioned. However, I do understand this concept that, especially with the player flexibility, like with the control that these players now have over their own destiny, you can make the argument that, especially for a guy of Dame's caliber, like if he were just willing to leave Portland, there's really no excuse for why he shouldn't retire with a championship, because he should be able to join really any team and make them immediately better. Dame's a guy who, like Vince Carter, can probably play until his early 40s because he can shoot from wherever, and he'll be able to.
Here soon.
Yeah, and he'll be able to expand his career exponentially because of that. Because everybody's going to need somebody who can space the floor, and you don't. If you're 9th or 10th in the rotation, and that depends on will he be willing to do that. But it's tough, man. Legacy-wise, I think KD is still one of the greatest, one of the generational players. And here's the caveat that I'm adding. I understand the championships part. I understand essentially devaluing the Warriors championship. The thing about Kevin Durant is, when I look at the modern-day NBA, as much as LeBron James gets a lot of credit for it, to me it was Kevin Durant as on top. So yes, Steph Curry changed the way the game is played because he did what he did at his size, and it made it more believable for short guys everywhere to think like, I could actually go out and be an NBA player. And I think a lot of kids who maybe otherwise never would have dreamed to chase that dream have done so because of Steph Curry. So you could make the argument Steph Curry is the one who changed basketball, but Kevin Durant to be lauded as a 7-footer. We all know now he's not really 7 feet tall, but coming out of college, everybody said he was a 7-footer out of Texas. Weren't sure that he would be able to play the game the way that he's played. And so for him to do, like, we're seeing Chet Holmgren, we're seeing Wemby.
Yeah.
And to me, like, all that goes back to Durant. And for that reason, Bol, yes, of course. And for that reason, and I don't think you can say this about every player, and that's why I'm making this specifically about Kevin Durant. I think he could be one of those guys. Yes, you want to take a point away, say that title isn't a quote unquote real title. Fine. Well, he changed the way the game has been played over the last decade and a half, and to me those will balance out. So to me, I do put KD up with the all-time greats, and I think 20 years from now, people talk about Kevin Durant the way that I talked about Bird and Magic, or the way that I talk about Bird and Magic. That's just how I think that's how it'll be.
I think so too. I think that's a good take.
So, an interesting take that I heard last night after the Bucks put a hurting on my Indiana Pacers came from Pacers head coach and one of my favorite head coaches of all time, Rick Carlisle. And he said something I'm about to paraphrase, James, which was, I would like someone out there to name me 5 players who are better than Jrue Holiday. So my question for you is very simple, James. And I gave a little leeway here. I'm just going to ask you, is Jrue Holiday a top 5 guard in the NBA today?
I don't think so. I think the talent is – I think it's out. We've talked about Dame Lillard is ahead of him.
Yep.
Ja Morant.
Okay.
I just need to pull up this. I just need to look at. I got to see teams here. I'm just going to go.
Would you like? I mean, there's some guys. It's
Donovan
tough.
Mitchell.
Donovan Mitchell's up there. Let me see. You would probably put Luka ahead of him.
Yeah. Luka's ahead of him. De'Aaron Fox.
Yep.
I think.
So
I think top 5 is. I think that's just such a short. Steph Curry's ahead of him.
I was going to ask you. I was like, is Curry still ahead of him? I know all time he is. Is he still ahead of him today?
100%.
Yeah. I agree.
When you factor in defense, it's quite a bit different too. But I think if you say top 10 guard, yes, the top 5 is just wild. Now, I mean,
what's crazy? He said top 5 player. He didn't even make that guard distinction.
Yeah,
I just did that to try to help our boy out.
Yeah. he had 51. I can't remember. It was either the 14th or the 17th different person had 50 points this year, which was an all-time tied for the all-time record. Like 20 of 30, 3 of 6 from 3, 8 of 10 from the free throw line. He also had 8 rebounds, 8 assists. They needed every one of his 51 points last night. They won by 13. Then you look at the back-to-back, and he struggled. They had a bad night tonight. They all did. I don't think he's top 5 guard. I think he's top 5, but I would say top 10. He's definitely undervalued in the mainstream culture. He's very undervalued.
Yeah, I agree with that last statement. And yeah, and I checked, I wrote them down. We did just name at least 5 guys that we thought were better. There are a couple of guys who maybe this time next year I absolutely think will be better. Tyrese Halliburton is the name that comes to my homer mind.
An up-and-comer that's in the realm.
Yep. Shoot, in 2 years, come see me about is Scoot Henderson better than Jrue Holiday? And I may have an answer for you. But yeah, I agree, and that's what I will focus on. I will agree that he has been undervalued. There were people who doubted him as an all-star selection. None of them are on this show. But there are people who have questioned Jrue Holiday's talent. I will say this: he is a bona fide all-star. He is potentially. I think he might be in my top 25 for the NBA. Like if I had to do a top 25 players going into next year, I think Jrue Holiday would be. He's definitely going on my first list, and we'll see how it gets whittled down. But to put him in the top 5 of all active players in the NBA, I think is a big stretch. Top 5 guards, I think he's a little closer to 5. Honestly, like once I get past, we had Dame, Fox, Curry, Luka, Spida. There's not many after Donovan Mitchell and those that I'm like, okay,
automatic.
Take all of these guys that are automatic. Yeah, so he might be hovering around top 5 guards in the league. But let us know what you think, folks. Is Jrue Holiday in your top 5? Heck, maybe he's on your NBA Mount Rushmore currently. If you are, you're probably Michael, our boy, big time Bucks fan. But that's okay. So I went from that we were just talking about. All of those questions came to us from Discord, which we will soon be opening up to the public. Very excited about that. But you can also tweet at us, so you can tag us. You can leave a comment here now, and we will read it out to you. But yeah, you can reach out to us. Let us know. Get us some questions. We would love to answer them. And this one that came in, James, I'm going to need to pivot back over to our standings.
Okay.
So we were asked to pick the play-in games. And I think when we look at this, at least on one conference, I think you and I will be in exact agreement. And here we go. Michael agreed.
He's number 1 on that list.
He's top 5, and the guy's name Jrue. That is fantastic, and I'm actually going to leave this up so you guys can read it. Those of you who are watching, he's got a ticket here about a Kings game, but I'm going to go back as we show this. I'm going to talk about our play-in selection, so I'm going to get this pulled up here. So I'm going to start with the East because I think that is easier, James.
I would agree with it. I think the East is almost set. Maybe the order of it, like maybe 7, 8, like 8, 9 flips. I guess we were both wrong. Toronto and Chicago are both going to make the playoffs, so I guess when they went, they didn't sell out.
Yeah. Yes, but okay. You say we're wrong. I will concede Toronto. This is exactly where I think we thought Chicago might be. This was still not worth not selling for.
No, I agree.
So I will stand by what we said. Chicago made a big mistake not getting rid of the assets that they had. If this was all they could muster, I mean, look, neither of these teams caught the Nets, by the way, which was their whole reason for not selling, was that they somehow thought they'd be a top 5 team in the East if they just kept the rosters that had earned them sub 500 records. Yeah. So, yeah, technically we were wrong, James, but I'm going to fight that one swinging. But sorry, go ahead.
I'm more like, I think you're forced. Like, I don't think the Wizards are getting in, the Pacers aren't getting in, the Magic aren't getting in.
Yes, correct.
I'm more interested, is Miami have any chance of catching Brooklyn at 6? Game and a half back.
I like what you did there.
I don't know if I haven't looked at either schedule, so I don't know. And then the question becomes, who gets the 8? Does the Hawks or the Raptors get it? And then that leads into your playoff playing games, because who plays the Heat first and who plays the Bulls first is the question.
I know who I've got. Well, let me see. Let's talk. Let's start with, I think, the most important thing, and that's Brooklyn over Miami, because I think that's the hardest. Once we settle on our 4, we can settle on the seeding. So,
Let's.
I could. Are you going to look it up? I'll talk about it here for a second, because without knowing the schedule, I am actually leaning towards Miami here. It's only, I know it's a game and a half difference, but
that's what I would say too.
They're the better team. Miami's built for this, and Brooklyn might be built to do this in 2 years. And they have a good amount of talent there in Brooklyn. We've talked about that before. Roll that tape back. Go check out our YouTube channel. We literally have a clip titled, "How long will the Nets rebuild? How long will it take the Nets to rebuild?" Look at me. I just said literally, and I can't quote the title for you, but it's there. So I'm not saying the Nets are blown out here, but I could see Miami taking that 6 seed. What does the schedule tell you, James?
Schedule tells me, first off, that Brooklyn's got 6 games. Miami's only got 5, so that leans in Miami's favor. Miami has lost 3 in a row. And, okay, so they both have a game against Philadelphia.
It's tough.
Miami goes... That's hardest game left on both the schedule. Miami goes Dallas, Detroit, Philly, Washington, Orlando. They should go 3-2 at worst, right?
Yes.
And maybe 4-1 if they want to get out, like have a shot at getting a play-in game. They need to go 4-1.
Yep.
The Brooklyn Nets have got Atlanta, who's fighting for their playoff seed, Utah, who's out, Minnesota, who's fighting, Detroit, Orlando should beat both of them. Orlando's been feisty recently, and then they finish with Philadelphia. So, the big question, the big game is tomorrow night when they play Atlanta tomorrow night. If they win that game, they're 2 games up. If they lose, they're right there. The Roos are only 1 game up. So
and it's Atlanta, you said?
Atlanta. That's
the plot thickens.
That's a monster game for playoff seeding.
Stick around for the rest of our playoff previews, by the way, or our weekend previews, by the way. We'll be picking that game. I'm certain. We're going to probably pick it right now, but
with this, I think I lean towards Brooklyn.
You're going to stick with Brooklyn. Well, for the sake of making this exercise more palatable and easy, I will go with that too. Let's go with chalk, because tie goes to the runner and Brooklyn has a game and a half lead. So let's say it's Miami, Atlanta, Toronto, Chicago. Without we don't have to seed it, but who ends up 7 and 8? Who do you see coming out of that foursome?
Miami goes 7.
Okay.
And I'm going to go Toronto as the 8 seed.
I like that a lot. Lock that in. Not to say that Atlanta doesn't have a chance.
I don't like the Bulls at all.
I don't like the Bulls at all. Atlanta's the only other team that could possibly be in here. Yep. I just think Toronto has a bit more collectively, even though Atlanta has, some star power there behind Trae Young and Dejounte Murray.
Brand new head coach too, Quinn Snyder.
Yep, who's got Trae playing defense. We keep seeing clips of that. I'm seeing him more frequently than I'm seeing UFO sightings now. So that certainly means something. I'm not sure what it means, but the West is much more wild. It's even messier because we can count Portland out. I think it's safe to say Portland is done.
Dame is not playing. They are trying to get the 5th best odds for Wemby, which I respect.
Talk about 40-point blowouts. That happened to Portland last night, and they only scored 80 points.
Yeah, rough.
Wow. Woof. So with that in mind, we'll just say you don't have to seed them, but we'll start with, out of these 6 teams, who are the 4 that are in the play-in?
I think you're playing this. Weirdly, I think it's set. I think Golden State's going to hang on and stay in the 6th.
No Dallas?
LA's been able to survive without Paul George. I think the Dallas mess, it's a mess, and I think it's going to end up with Jason Kidd getting fired.
Well, one would hope.
3-7
All
in
right.
the last 10. I think Dallas is a train wreck, which is sad that Luka's not going to be in the playoffs a year after going to the conference finals.
Yes. And this is probably going to be a topic for next week or later if it becomes true. But I'm just going to say this. Luka made a comment about basketball being fun and it not being fun anymore, and everyone immediately said that was Kyrie. And I know that Kyrie has earned the ire of a lot of folks. He's done a lot of stuff to anger a lot of people. But the other thing is he is also, you know what there's a lot of evidence of? There's a lot of evidence of him being the first one in the gym, him being the first one at practice, the last one to leave. Like, I'm not ready to blame all of this on Kyrie. You mentioned Jason Kidd. I am much more ready to blame this all on Jason Kidd because he's the one out there not calling any plays, not running any kind of offense. Like, I don't know what he is coaching this team, if I'm being completely honest with you.
I'll tell you that.
It's not defense. It's not how to run an offense. Like, is he just coaching Luka? And it doesn't make sense because Jason Kidd was one of the great facilitators of his time. Like, this is a guy who I know knew how to do it. He was not a Luka type player. Jason Kidd, after maybe the first couple of years in Dallas, he was never a take it over, do it all by himself. Oh, look at Jason Kidd, put the team on his back. No, it was always, it took him 12 years to hit an open three. You know, the guy couldn't shoot for most of his career. And so I don't understand what it is that he's coaching. It's not any of the stuff that he was good at as a player. So maybe it's one of those, not everybody who's talented is actually good at applying it because their athletic gifts and their abilities were, for lack of a better term, a shortcut. So they didn't actually, not everybody who's physically gifted learns to do things the right way. And then therefore they can't go out and teach it, which is why you see a lot of not great athletes become great coaches, because the only way they were able to ascend to the level that they did was hard work, repetition, practice, work ethic. Those are the things you can teach to people. You can't teach them the talent you were born with. And Jason Kidd, for what it's worth, just kind of has always had his head up his ass, if I'm being honest. It goes back to him being a player. Yeah. I would never have picked him to be a leader of men, but I'm gonna step off my soapbox. We've beat the poor man down enough, or at least I have. But so I'm gonna, as much as it pains me, and I'd like to see Dallas instead of either Oklahoma or New Orleans, we'll run with chalk. We'll go with that, and it may be a lesson learned for Mark Cuban and the Dallas Mavericks.
Then the question becomes, who's your 7 and 8? Which, congrats, your Pelicans are back.
Hey,
they're not really
they
back.
did it.
Zion still
Look at you. I did it.
But they're
proud of you.
I think that's who I like. I think I like the Lakers as the 7 and the Pelicans as the 8.
Ooh, okay.
Really, I'm not a believer in the Timberwolves, especially
wow.
They're trying to figure that mess out again. No way. I'm not a Timberwolves
big fan.
I think we're just a little we're a year or two too early in Oklahoma City. They're going to be the upstarts here once Chet gets back, and they're good. They're good and young. I think just a little too early on them.
Thunder are going to be very good. I've made this joke several times. It's not really a joke, but that 2027 NBA Finals between the Pistons and the Thunder is going to be just must-watch TV.
Yep.
I am going to go against my wants and needs and desires, and also go against just picking the same thing that you did. So I'm going to unfortunately pick against my Pelicans, and I'm going to say that the Timberwolves, although they won't manage much, they will manage to sneak into the playoffs here. So I'll give me Minnesota and LA.
Yep.
And I will, to counteract what I know to be true, which is that the Karl Anthony Towns Gobert thing never had enough time to work in the regular season, I will say what I said last week, which is Mike Conley will be the glue that can get this offense together enough to get through the play-in. So give me Minnesota and the Los Angeles Lakers to make it out of the play-in in the West. So once again, that came from our Discord. So keep an eye out. Go ahead and subscribe to us here on YouTube, of course, or follow us on Facebook, or if you're watching on Twitter, of course, follow us on Twitter. But that will be the best way to be notified when our Discord goes public. It is going very soon. If he's still out in the chat, shout out to Michael, by the way. Thank you so much. He deserves all the credit.
Appreciate you, Michael.
Dude built our Discord from the ground up. It is incredible how Discord illiterate I was. And so I've learned a lot. And thank you, Michael. So that is another way you can interact with us here on the show. Once our Discord goes live, you can find the bounce. We have channels for all of our shows. Necessary Roughness, Another Damn Fantasy Podcast, Biting Early, Late Night Bites, Rumbles of Red. We've got them everywhere. So whatever you want to talk about, whatever sport you want to talk about, come in, chill with us, hang out. And if you ask us a question, we will answer it right here. Now, we will have another question for you that we'll put out on Twitter. James is going to have one for you. I have one. Oh, man, I just forgot it. So I'm going to have to. Nope, I take it back. I remember it now. Fans out there, listeners, my question for you for next week. Given the options of Chet Holmgren or Victor Wembanyama, who is your rookie of the year for 2024 in the NBA? Let us know in a comment, tag us on a tweet, however you can reach out to us. We are all over the internet. If you mention it, we will make sure it gets on the show next week.
Kev, that's good. Kev, that's really good. That's really good. I'm going to give you credit. That's good. That's good.
Let's go, boys. I want to know who you think will be next year's Rookie of the Year. So should we look into the weekend now? Is there anything else we need to look at before it's the weekend preview?
I do want to just highlight congratulations to Donovan Mitchell. Oh, he went over 10,000 career points.
Hey.
He's moving along. No, but I think it is time to go to the weekend. We got a pretty good weekend ahead of us. Final Four on Saturday. So the NBA slate on Saturday is light. Avoid the Final Four, but tomorrow night is a lot of fun.
Yes, we have it pulled up. So, well, first, I guess I'll update us on tonight. The Pelicans currently have an 8-point lead on Denver. So, hey, if they win that game, it makes your pick there look pretty good. So I've got the Friday slate loading up. Bear with me. The worldwide leader in sports is taking its sweet time here. Here we go. There we go. That's why. And then you took me to Saturday. Yep. My God. What are we doing here?
I told you Saturday's a light day.
What are we doing here? There we go. Ooh, which one do you want to talk about first, James? We don't have much here at the 7 o'clock hour, I admit.
Yeah, why didn't I?
Raptors, Sixers? Yeah, I don't know why it went. They've updated this. It'd be a much more manageable, like smaller list where you could see all of Saturday's games. I honestly prefer that to what we're looking at right now. But hey,
if you click schedule up there, Kev,
that's what it was. I fat fingered it. I was like, why isn't it showing me the schedule the way? Don't worry, we'll cut this out in post. No, we won't.
That's what you're looking.
All right, Friday. There it is. Here is our weekend preview. What do you like on Friday?
I mean, we talked about the 7:30 matchup, Atlanta-Brooklyn. That's a big one. Playoff implication game. Seeding-wise in the East, it's a big one. Another 7:30 game, New York-Cleveland, which is most likely a preview of the first round of the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a monster game. Clippers-Memphis at 8 is fun. Paul George still out, still good, though. Also at 8, another playoff seed implications game. LA Lakers at Minnesota. Right neck and neck with each other. And then the big one of the night is the late night cap, the 10:30 NBA TV, Denver versus Phoenix. Man, there's a lot of good ones, man. A lot of good games.
I tell you what, I might stay up late for that one and stream along watching that one on playback as well, because that's a big one. Denver Phoenix, that's a potential second round matchup right now.
KD's second game back. He's at home. That's a fun game.
So yeah, I'd say that's my pick as well for game of the night. It's toss up, honestly. That New York Cleveland game could be game of the night.
New York Cleveland's fun. I'm glad they're not at the same time.
Very glad. Yeah, we'll be able to watch both of those. And yeah, so let me see. I'm going to look through. We're going to pick off. I'm just going to mention, because there is relevancy in almost every game. So you do have Chicago with needing a win to hold on to their play-in spot. You've got Oklahoma City, who I hope will beat the Pacers in a hard-fought game where my Pacers look good for 3.5 quarters. But Toronto at Philly, I think this is one of the first ones we actually stop and sit on for a second. Philly, both teams need this for playoff seeding. But give me Philly. Isn't this a rematch? Was this last year's first-round matchup? Toronto-Philly, or was it a second-round matchup? They played not that long ago.
I'm not sure. You could be right. I'm not completely sure.
So it'll have a playoff atmosphere. I think it'll be a good game to watch. But give me Philly at home, James. Who you got?
Okay. Yeah, I like Philly at home too. Philly's trying to catch the top. I think it's just too big of a game for Toronto. Philly's too good.
And Orlando, Washington, our first actually that doesn't have any impact at all, except for the Wemby watch at this point. Yep. Utah at Boston. I hope that Boston helps to put Utah out of its collective misery soon. It's unfortunate. I don't want to beat the dead horse, but we're on a new channel now, so not everybody here on Bite Size has heard me talk about this for 15 weeks. So I will just say it now: the Utah Jazz really, and you can't blame them for it. How are you going to blame them for Lauri Markkanen having that start that he had?
Yeah.
But they really screwed themselves by having that hot start to the season. They have no business being anywhere near the play-in right now. Boston, right?
Dumb. Boston.
Yeah, Boston. Okay, Atlanta at Brooklyn. We talked about this one. We know who you think is going to lock in that playoff spot because of that.
I'm going to say Brooklyn because of that.
Yeah, Brooklyn. You know what? Give me Atlanta in this one just to be contrarian. I think these are two evenly matched teams.
Good game.
And it'll go against my pick earlier, but give me Atlanta in this one. New York at Cleveland. James, I am taking the home team Cavaliers here in our playoff preview. Who do you have?
I think so too. Man. I'm gonna do this. I actually like Cleveland at home. I like Cleveland at home there, and I like Cleveland at home in the series.
Hey, same.
I like Cleveland in that series.
Same. We'll see if that changes by the time we come out for our preview, but I am with you there. Detroit at Houston, I'm going to skip. LA at Memphis. This is also a pretty important game out west. So do you have a favorite? Memphis at home, being it a Western Conference game, Western at home is probably, or Memphis at home is probably the statistical choice, but what do you got?
I am going to go against the grain. I am going to pick Clippers at home. Give me the Kawhi Leonard game. Give me the Kawhi Leonard show, reminding people he's still here, folks.
Clippers on the road. As much as I want to see that, James, I will be rooting for you on that one. I want to see my Clippers still. They're not my Clippers. They're only my Clippers
because been on that bandwagon, though.
Because I picked them to go to the conference finals this year, and I need to invest in that bet, but I will not. Let's go with the Grizzlies taking this one at home. Los Angeles versus Minnesota. This one is, potentially it's more important than it will be entertaining, but it's a very big game here for both of these teams, James. LA on the road, or do you like Minnesota to serve court at home?
I like LA on the road. I like the Lakers on the road. Minnesota's got their back to trying to figure out the Twin Towers. I'm going with LA on the road. LA's finally got everybody healthy.
Yep, you just mentioned it. You mentioned both of them. You mentioned the Twin Towers situation, but LeBron James is back. Came off the bench in the last game, I believe, and so it's only a matter of time before he's out there I don't even know if he'll be at full strength, but he'll be at enough strength to have an impact and be one of the three best players on the court at any given time. So give me the Lakers on the road as well. I won't be surprised to see the Lakers wind up the actual 7 seed when this is
agree.
all said and done. I could see them getting ahead, and then they're still going to be a play-in team, in my opinion. But
Yeah,
I think
they're not gonna
it'll be
have
them 7, Minnesota 8 is
Yep.
my take there. San Antonio at Golden State. This could not be easier. Golden State's at home against a Wemby
game.
Watch team.
Yep.
Go do literally anything else. I hate to do that. I hate to be that
It's
guy,
the
but
same
don't
thing
watch
for the
that.
Sacramento-Portland game because Portland is sitting Dame right now. They're Wemby watching, so same thing
Yep.
there too.
Yep, absolutely, which takes us to the main event. Denver at Phoenix. Phoenix will have the services of one Kevin Durant. Who are you taking, James?
Man, Denver's on back-to-back too because they're playing right now. Oh, man, I'm going to take Denver on the road. I think it's too big of a game for them to sit it out. They need to assert their dominance over the Kevin Durant-led Phoenix Suns. So I'm going Denver on the road, even though they're on a back-to-back. They're playing tonight.
Oh, and you just hit it. For that reason, I will take the Suns at home because the Nuggets
I get it.
are on the back of a back-to-back. So also, if this were a home game for Denver, I think they would probably win it. Even if it were like if they were on a back-to-back homestand, I would probably pick Denver with you. But since they're going to Phoenix and there's a good chance, Kevin Durant will be a little more healthy this round, and so this might be more of his true. I know he technically already had his debut, but this might be his first, real game back where he starts to feel a little bit better. So give me Phoenix riding hot at home.
Fair enough.
Saturday, super quick, Dallas at Miami in a carefully scheduled rematch of the 2011 NBA championship. Exactly how you draw it up. So Dallas at Miami. Who's your take here, James?
Heat at home. Give me the Heat. The Mavericks are a dysfunctional mess right now.
Party in. Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there. Yes, I'm with you. Dallas. They're not going to do it. Party in the city where the heat is on for Miami at 7:30. Lock that in. James, I can't pick this one. LA at New Orleans. I'm just going to let you talk for a minute.
I'm going to predict something weird here. I think New Orleans wins this game. I could see this being a load management Kawhi Leonard game. After they play Memphis Friday night, I could see them turning around and sitting him on Saturday.
Back to back. Very good point. You know what?
I think that for that reason, I could see that one happening.
That's a very, very good call. I think it will be a Kawhi rest game. Just for fun, I'm going to predict an Eric Gordon outburst, and the Clippers are going to squeak one out against New Orleans, because that's the thing about the Clippers with Norman Powell, with Eric Gordon. Like I said, when they had Paul George, I was still debating between them and Milwaukee as who is the deepest team in the NBA. But I love this team's depth, and they do have a couple guys back there. I'm all about depth, man. I mean, maybe it's just the NBA 2K player in me, because I'm a weird coach, man. I do line shit. Like, I have a first unit, I have a second unit. Like, I like my guys to play together. I don't love to mix and match. Like, we're gonna bring these two in and leave these three. I don't know. So I'm a huge fan of just having the best matchup. I think that's where you can win. If your second unit is better than the other team's second unit every time you play, that's a huge advantage to have, because not a lot of people can play 40 minutes a night. So give me LA, as much as it pains me to pick against New Orleans here. You know how much I love you boys. Zion comes back next year. You'll have your second best player back, because your best player just got shoulder checked by Draymond the other night. But it'll be all right in New Orleans. I still think that is a team on the rise. There's so much talent there. But give me LA in this one. Sunday.
Loaded slate Sunday, but there's only a few good ones in there.
Yeah, we will. We're at an hour and a half, so we will just hit the good ones here, James. We don't have to hit every single one, so we can send these folks home. What's the first one for you?
I'm counting this one, even though it's not as good as it could be. Dallas, Atlanta, playoff implications game. Do you like Atlanta at home?
Ooh, no. Give me Dallas.
Okay.
I
don't
know why. This is like when I picked Arizona to go to the Elite Eight. Give me Dallas. I don't know why.
I had them in the Final Four, so.
Yeah, I might have too, and in one of them.
I like your pick with Dallas. We'll stay with it. Go down to the very bottom. You got two great games, 8 and 8:30. 8 o'clock, Philadelphia, Milwaukee. 8:30, Golden State at Denver. We'll start with Philly, Milwaukee. Kev, does Milwaukee bounce back for their 45-point drubbing tonight? They don't play until Sunday.
Ooh, that's a good point. And yes, and for that reason exactly, they're going to bounce back. Now, this won't be a drubbing. They're not going to be able to exact their pound of flesh from the Sixers here. This is going to be a hard-fought game. Both teams will be in it. But give me Milwaukee at home after having faced that. They're going to want to get that one out of their mind immediately. Give me the Bucks at home.
I agree. Now they got to let it stew for 4 days. I'm all about it. I think Bucks win that one. I agree with you.
Yeah, and honestly, 40 from Giannis.
Yeah, he's going to have a blow-up game. Oh, your boy Justin Herbert's on. Trust the process.
Oh, what's up? Hey, let's go. Really? Hey, let's go, buddy. Heck yeah. I gave you a shout out early. Don't watch the Final Four pick, though. Although, hey.
Yeah, he
you got you out, but I shouted you out. It's unfortunate, though, because FAU were my Cinderella coming in. So we're at a crossroads, brother. I'm sorry. But I'm so happy that you are here. And we do have some faith in your Sixers making it a playoff run. At least I do. I won't speak for James. Yeah. At least I appreciate you, brother. I appreciate you.
And then I assume we're both going to pick the same way, Golden State at Denver, because one team can't play on the road.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Give me Golden State in the upset. No, I'm just right. No, yeah, right. Will Golden State get their 10th win on the road against Denver? Absolutely not.
So. Not this one. Denver's trying to lock up that 1 seed. I'm calling Denver Sunday night.
Not today, baby. Not today. I'm with you. Denver on Sunday night. Mm-hmm. So there it is. There is the weekend preview locked and loaded. James, do you have anything else for the folks at home?
It was always the Owls, Justin. It was always the Owls.
It was always the Owls, man. I will say this. I said it again, or I said it earlier. I'll say it again. In my opinion, the FAU SDSU game is the national championship. That's my national championship. In my head canon, that's who it is. There we go. I love it. I love it. Go Aztecs. Hey, and we gave some love to that 2020 team, by the way, earlier too, Justin.
Flynn was a dog.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, thank you all for joining us. Please bear with me for a second. I got to get through my my spiel on the way out. So be sure to like, subscribe, do all that cool stuff. If you could share, we really appreciate it. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all of that stuff at Bite Size Sports. We have live shows coming throughout the week. We've got our NFL show every Tuesday night. Check out Necessary Roughness with Nick. Oh my God, Nick, John, Michael. I about called him Justin. But yeah, come hang out. Bite Size Sports. We'd love to have you. We would love to answer your questions on stream, and very soon we will have a Discord link for all of you. So I can't wait to hang out with all of you there. And once again, thank you, Michael. James, where can the folks find you?
Every Thursday here, 9 o'clock on the bounce, baby.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right. You can find me on Twitter at KevNevick_. Again, find Bite Size Sports at Bite Size Sports on Twitter. We also do some Twitter spaces, and we will be live streaming NBA and MLB games throughout the week on Playback TV. So the link for that is playback.tv/Bite Size Sports. So last but not least, thank you so much to everyone who watched today. Thank you to Michael and Justin in the chat, all the other folks that watched. We have so much fun hanging out with you. We appreciate you taking your time, spending it with us. So thank you, and until next time, take care, be safe, all right?